Oh, it is recording, isn't it? Hello and welcome to Fitness Unfiltered. It is I, Dan, and I'm joined by the usual bunch today, but we are extremely excited to be joined by a very special guest. But before we invite them on, Mike, how are you?
I am fine.
Em?
I'm also fine, thank you.
Okay, and the reason why we're excited to have this guest on is because, I'll say it openly. I was 100% certain you would say no, firstly. So welcome, Ban Hass. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, why did you think I'd say no?
I don't know, because I pretty much cold called your inbox.
Is it because of the previous guests you've had on?
Ooh.
Wait,
Right.
delve.
I knew this was going to be fun.
Yeah, I want to delve into this.
10 seconds in.
Yeah, I love it. What were we calling this one? You actually came up with the name of this podcast.
Who?
Consent.
Yeah, that's it. Consent podcast.
Hashtag consent.
No, I was just wondering because you said I was shot. I thought, I don't know. I assumed that's what you meant.
I reckon the reason I thought that you might not want to do it is because I kind of like from following you, I'm not sure, like I feel like you're quite enigmatic and you're quite like you put out a lot of satire, like you're really kind of humorous and stuff with your content, and you're quite like spicy. It's always quite biting. And I never am quite sure what the basis is, like where actually you sit on the continuum of actual like views and opinions and stuff like that, because a lot of it is like satirical, but with that sort of backbite as well. And I'm like, oh, I can't tell if this is like, if this post, for example, is like taking the mick out of fitness or taking the mick out of influencers or taking the mick out of all sorts of isms and things like that. Like it's almost it's quite enigmatic and it's enjoyable in that way, but it's like I kind of feel like you're also quite mysterious as well. And so I always think that mysterious people might not want to like go on a podcast and actually kind of talk the like serious talk.
No.
That's the best answer possible.
No, you're wrong.
I think when people think I'm mysterious, it's genuinely just because I can't be bothered or I've just got a lot going on. It's not about mystery. It's just about being quite busy and thinking, actually, this is actually kind of fucking boring me at the moment, social media. It's not really me being mysterious. Oh, I wish I was mysterious. Oh.
No, but that's the refreshing thing, I think, because I really enjoy the satire and I like that people, and I suppose it's almost like I'd compare it to stand-up comedy in a way, in that it dances on that line of, is she taking the piss? Isn't she taking the piss? Like people will question where you stand on certain things, but you have an element of transparency on there. But what I really like about your platform is that you have this reach, but then you have your opinions on certain things, but also you use that reach to elevate people that maybe aren't as better positioned to be vocal about certain things that they're definitely more informed about, which I think is quite refreshing on social media, because everyone likes to cast their opinions on things, but no one necessarily wants to maybe raise those voices up that are better positioned to talk about certain issues.
I think a lot of people want to raise their voices and things. I think a lot of people just want to talk very, very loudly. I think a lot of people just like the sounds of not with the intention of raising other people's voices. It's not with the intention of helping those who need it most. It's just because I like my voice, I like my ego. How can this boost my following? I think that's the difference. And at the moment, there's like this influx of a lot of, oh, look at this person who's speaking this person is so, so out there and will give out all their opinions without giving a fuck. But really, do they not give a fuck, or are they just meeting what they know is extremely palatable, what they know most people are going to love, and what is actually going to boost their own profile? There's a real big difference between talking the talk for the sake of yourself, or talking the talk and actually thinking, you know what, I might lose a few followers about this and I don't actually care, because the people who need it most will appreciate it more.
Mm-hmm.
So and then there's the people who sit on the fence, who are very much like, why is raising your hand? It's, I mean,
Mike's well known as
really
Switzerland.
nice. It is a really nice, comfy place to sit on the fence, because you're kind of like, oh, I want to keep you guys happy. I want to keep the bikini competitors happy, who are all about aesthetics. I am going to get in with the spiritual yogis, who are all about, you know, mind, body. You know, this is all about, you know, what your body can do, but also who look the part, obviously, who are thin, white, and in all the yoga poses, obviously, because you don't get anywhere unless you're there. And then they also want to get in with the non-diet crowd. So they're kind of like, you can, you know, ha ha ha, you can do all, you can do, well, you can't do all. And you definitely can't just sit on the fence. I think that's really, really obvious when people are doing that.
Yeah.
Those are the people who, in social media terms, do very well. They do grow because they're never upsetting anyone that much.
Yeah.
Do you think don't people follow people? Like, one of the reasons I follow you is because I like your opinions, and I don't agree with all of them, but I like that. And a lot of people will surround themselves with people that agree with the same things. But I like being like, I'm like, oh, I'm not sure I agree with that, but why don't I agree with it?
But I think that I agree with that, and I'm like you as well. But also, Emma, I think there comes a time where there may be that post where you think, fuck this fucking shit, unfollow. And it's like, which post did that? What was it? Which one was it that did that? And for the Mike's laughing. And for the females, it's usually the ones that are like, oh my God, you're just so not a feminist. Oh my God, how are you dragging other women down? I'm like, I don't have time for this shit. So so with the women, it's usually that. With the men, it's usually with male PTs, sorry guys. With the male PTs, it's usually stuff like the it's not even like the men are trash stuff. I think I hope by now I've got rid of most of those who have a problem with that. They went a long time ago. But I think a lot of, no, I'm not going to get into that now.
No,
Sorry.
Go for it.
No,
let's go there.
No. Well, I think there is a this is we're so going off the point here, but I think there are a lot of people who, it is a lot of men. I'm not going to lie, guys. It is a lot of men.
It's all right. I don't feel like this is a personal attack, and I don't feel I need to apologise, because largely I agree with a lot of things.
It is a lot of men
you're probably saying.
They'll take a statement, for example. Someone will put out a statement like, oh, diets don't work. And they'll be like, oh my God, look at this person. Diets don't work. Oh my fucking God, look how stupid this person. Oh, you call yourself a PT? You are fucking stupid. Like, this person's saying calories in, calories out. It's like, no. No one said that. No, they take something out of context, and they're very much like, it's, unless you must not be able to work with your clients, you must be kind of lazy yourself if you can't get people into shape. They kind of see it as, oh, you're just jumping on a bandwagon and you're like all a part of this non-diet crowd because you don't know how to change people's bodies. You're too lazy yourself to change your body. I'm like, mate, it's actually a lot easier to post a picture of your body and gain the followers than it is to kind of tell people, actually, maybe there's another reason why you should exercise. Maybe, like, talking about injury prevention is a lot less sexy.
Yeah, it's really interesting that
so when a PT, sometimes male, kind of comes up and goes, oh, you're just jumping on the bandwagon, I'm like, what the fuck are you on? Because this is a lot harder. And it's the same PTs who get up and get all angry when women are posting pictures of their bodies. Yeah. So like, oh, look at this person just using their body. So so you just don't like women then?
Would you agree that partly some of that is the nature of social media anyway, not to condone it, but men and women are as guilty of that. And also some people are just like, you can probably see it. I know certainly when I see certain stuff, it is people are jumping on a bandwagon to elevate their status and joining on something that's on trend. And you can see very much the difference between those people that passionately believe in the message they're promoting as well.
I mean, a lot of it is jumping on the bandwagon, and you can really, really tell. I have no problem with people changing their minds. You can see that a lot. But sometimes when it's literally like you are literally counting macros, how do you go from doing that literally 1 week, and then suddenly you're an intuitive eater, dieter the next? That is a bit extreme.
I did that.
No, you did not.
I did. I did an intuitive eating experiment, but it didn't go very well for me, unfortunately. But it was really interesting because I am really interested in what you're saying, because I'm definitely someone who has gradually, and obviously not overnight, but I have definitely changed my mind about dieting, and it's really interesting to hear, because when I first started being more vocal on social media, is because I was kind of using social media as a bit of an accountability tool, like for my own lifestyle change. And I lost a load of weight, and I was very like, weight loss is great. Weight loss is really positive. I remember being like at someone's birthday drinks and speaking to Laura Thomas, PhD of like intuitive eating and stuff. And I was like, I said something came up about Transformation Tuesday. And I was like, oh my God, what's wrong with Transformation Tuesday? I love Transformation Tuesday. And she was like, I can't tell if you're trolling me right now. And I was like, no, like, tell me, like, because I haven't seen any disadvantages of it at all. And she was like, look, don't you think? Yeah, but it was explained in a really positive way, because she said, like, do you recognize that there could potentially be something problematic in the idea of you showcasing this incredible thing that you've supposedly achieved, but looking at on what you were before as something, to be really happy that you are no longer? How do you think that might make people feel about if they identify more with that before picture?
Yeah. And
it was a bit of a kind of light bulb moment for me, because I was a bit like, I had genuinely never had anybody explain it to me in those terms before. So, I was merrily going around, and if anybody would go, ugh, boring, Transformation Tuesday, it's so problematic, but they wouldn't necessarily explain to me why. This was the first time someone had gone, this is why it's a problem. And I'd gone, okay, I get it now. And I get that, there's a lot of nuance behind it. And I wouldn't say that I am now against it. I still sometimes post Transformation Tuesday, but I put a lot of nuance into the captions, and what I discuss about what a transformation is and all that kind of stuff. But I never would have had the chance for that education if I hadn't learned it from someone in real life. If I'd only been going around following people on social media and seeing people just be argumentative about it without actually backing it up with any substance, like people do in real life. And I don't know. I mean, I think that there's a big problem with people in general, but there's also a big problem with the way that we communicate on social media. Like, people are very rarely willing to engage in any kind of meaningful conversation with someone that disagrees with them. They're more likely to press an unfollow button. And quite rightly, like, I don't expect people to, I'm not going to go on people's posts and go, oh, by the way, this is wrong because X, Y, and Z.
I don't do that either.
Exactly, because you also don't know what you're going to get back from those people as well. I just think it's like, it's quite a toxic environment for discussion. I think it's a great environment for argument and controversy and echo chambers, but I think it's tough to educate. I found that it's tough to educate people. You get applause from the people that already agree with you, and you get unfollows or anger from the people that don't agree with you.
You also, depending on the size of your platform, you are also obviously more likely to get applause just because of the size of your platform, which is really depressing. Yeah. So if someone with a huge following posts something, they are unfortunately in control. So if they decide that something they disagree with something, God forbid it's me or someone with a smaller account, I'm fucked, right? Just literally, you just know you're going to absolutely get attacked for the next couple of days. Like, that happened. That's happened to me before. Don't know if it's happened to you guys before, but it's probably also a reason why I probably don't post as much as I used to. I would say in the last couple of years, I'm not on social media as much. And I think it goes back to what Mike just said, because I realized I can't be bothered to discuss. And if I can't be bothered to discuss, and that is, and I never really realized this until you guys mentioned it, and you said that you just post something quite spicy and quite sarky, and then you kind of fuck off for a bit. And that's why I think it is, because I've reached that point where I'm like, actually, Ban, if you're not going to be willing to discuss why are you posting, maybe this isn't your thing, maybe social media isn't for you, maybe you should focus on the outside world, because in the outside world I'll have any conversation with anyone. But I would never now, I have no time or any desire to sit back and write a full out response to people. And that's, you can't do that, I don't think. I don't think it's right for me to post things and then just not respond to people, which is probably why I don't engage as much on social media anymore.
But I think that's fair enough. You know, something, if you don't mind me mentioning, Ban, is you're quite open about in terms of boundaries and protecting your own mental health. And, you know, I know that's of interest to you. Is that something that you, in terms of one of your pillars?
I say that, and still I get that guilt when I don't respond, right? So I say that, and still I feel like, oh God, like this like I want to come back to this person and just be like, oh, I hope you're okay. I hope you're having a good day. I hope you're, like, when someone says thank you for that post, I want to be like, oh, I hope you're all right. Or when someone, because people do cross that boundary, they do kind of pile on that shit and be like, oh yeah, I've had a really bad day. I had this happen. I've had, like, I'm like, oh my God, like, oh, I feel like you feel like you have to be there because what if something happens? So I can preach boundaries, but I also have this, I do have this need to help people as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good quality. I think that's an okay quality to have.
And it's not always, it's rarely publicly, it's usually in the DMs and things. But openly, when people, which is interesting again, because if you came to me about that Transformation Tuesday, I'd be like, the back of my mind, I'm thinking, surely you know, surely you get why. So if someone said to me, why is this problematic? I'd think, surely by now you know. And it's stupid because people still don't know. We assume that people live in the bubble that we live in, whereas people still don't understand. So now when I post something in terms of, if I post something like mocking thin women who are, you know, changing their shape of bodies to make them look not as thin, or like slouching over to make themselves look not as good, and I get a whole load of DMs about, oh my God, eating disorders, I'm really upset. I'm like, we've been through this a lot. I have been through this for the last 5 years. I'm not going to respond. And this person may be a new follower. And they're probably thinking, what an absolute dick this girl is. She doesn't give a fuck. She knows nothing about eating disorders. And I'm like, I really promise you, I get it. I know where you're coming from, but I just do not have an ounce of energy left to go through this again.
I think it's tough, isn't it? Because
social media,
because we often think, and again, like, I completely understand where you're coming from with that, with saying, well, surely you must know, because even when a lot of the stuff that you're talking about that, I think we almost grow with our echo chambers, and you almost feel like there are these stages of fitness enlightenment, I think, whereby, you know, you start off and you just want to lose weight or change your body shape or whatever. And then you might do that or fail at it, or do it and then fail at it and do it again or whatever. And then you either get stuck in that cycle, or you sort of come out the other side and start learning a little bit more about it and about the longevity of it and what the issues are with it and all of those sorts of things. And then you become this sort of slightly more, I hesitate to use the word enlightened because it's just a bit, you know, it's a bit sort of taking itself slightly too seriously. But what I mean is you kind of just understand a bit more nuance about what is going on and why it's going on. And then you assume that everybody else has been on that journey with you and has grown with you. Whereas it's just the people that you're with who have grown together because you're all sharing this information with each other. Whereas there's all these other people who are just in that phase from before as well. Like someone told me today that they just started drinking bulletproof coffee. And I was like, how is that still happening? Like,
yeah, you know. It's like when someone tweeted the other week about, oh my God, I just found out that people were putting courgette in their oats. And I was like, wait, hang on a minute. This is kind of cute. This is actually adorable that you've just found that out.
I think, sorry, just before we move on from that, like, I think it would still be really useful for our audience to discuss the pros and cons of Transformation Tuesdays, because there are pros. And I mean, I work with really, like, the majority of my client base is women who are quite new to the fitness industry as what we would term like our echo chamber probably, but who have done Slimming World, Weight Watchers, Herbalife, done every fad diet ever, and have failed at or they feel like they failed at every single one. The diets obviously failed them, but now they're coming into this and they will see transformations and think it's really motivating. And I understand there are negatives towards that and there are positives, but it also creates this like, if they've got in their head, I'm always going to look like that, and they've got this fixed mindset, but they see that someone has had this huge, amazing transformation and they're like, I can do that. So there's a positive there. And then on the other side, you've got with these girls, which, you know, I obviously don't agree with, but skinny girls who are sitting down and showing they've got rolls. Now, there is a benefit to that because other skinny girls who look the same, who are obsessed with looking like this girl, which they already look like, don't realize, because you always see yourself in the worst light. Like you always see yourself, you're looking down and you can see your rolls. You're like, so and so doesn't have that. And then they're like, oh yeah, actually I do. But I also look like this when I pose. Like there are pros to both of these things. And I think it's very easy from like, because I'm just thinking if one of my clients was listening to this, they'd be like, I still don't understand what the negative is with Transformation Tuesday, for example.
Okay.
And do you think that the negative completely outweighs
I do.
positives? Okay.
I do think the negatives outweigh the positives. I am all for people having my biggest issue with this is I hate people, and I've had this with my own clients, feeling guilty for having aesthetic goals. That is totally not what I'm about. If you want aesthetic goals, absolutely do not. Like, who am I to judge when I have never been in a larger body? And some may argue that even if you're not in a larger body, who are you to judge anyway? If someone just wants to feel better about themselves, at the end of the day, we live in a world where people unfortunately get further in life based on how they look. Why wouldn't you want an easier life? There is that argument. Why wouldn't people, women especially, why wouldn't women want an easier life if you know that by having plastic surgery, you can have a better life? By getting fillers, you're going to be more liked. By losing weight, you're probably going to get that job, get that guy who's got the dog, the money, the house, the whatever. There are those arguments. So I completely get that. And that's why I don't judge. Why shouldn't you have one life? Why shouldn't you make it an easy life? But the problem, so where the transformation photos can be a problem, there's so many parts to this. It's reducing your journey to a photo. It's reducing a lot of fitness. Fitness has so much more than just that visual. Also, when you get to that second photo, it never stops there. That second photo, the one on the, what we're going to say, the right photo, it never stops there. You are never satisfied with that photo. No one ever gets to a point and goes, yep, I'm done now. This is great. They just don't do that. They want more. They want more. And then at what point does that become a real problem? Because usually it does become a problem. Another thing, your before is someone else's dream. That's a huge thing. And I know a lot of people will sit here and be like, that's not my problem. Well, maybe it should be a problem. Maybe you should care about someone else apart
who
from
wants to upset people. Like this is what I say, like who wants to be
on social media who are kind of like, well, that's not my issue. That's not. And I'm just thinking, but why would you want to be a dick? If you are in this industry wanting to help people, why would you want to make some of those people who could be looking to get into health and fitness feel worse about that?
Do you know what? I agree with you in terms of like the message at the root cause there, and that is a problem. Totally agree. I think probably in some instances it's giving people too much credit. It's just that they don't think. It's not almost they put that stuff out maliciously. Because I'm 100% with you, and I think a lot of the issue is problematic messaging, and it's the before and after. Is no one talks about the stuff that led to that, or the, as you said, all the other healthful behaviours. You know.
Yeah, but the thing is, I don't agree with that. I think they do. I think people do talk about that. I put up loads of transformations of clients. I never put it up on its own with no
That's our
context.
echo.
And I'm not
Would you say
the
that's
only
our echo
person.
chamber there?
No, I think that's more and more and more common. Realistically, Instagram is a picture app, right? So you're going to see the pictures. But there's non-scale victories. But like, do you get any reach when you write a paragraph? Not really. Like that, and I think the pictures are, I think for a lot of people they're encouraging, and I completely understand. From one side you might be like, oh my god, that person's before is like what I is my after. But equally you'll get people that are like, that's so motivating that they've been able to do that. And I think it depends on the mindset you're coming at it from.
I think
like I know if I see someone who's had an amazing transformation, I would see that as motivating, and I get that some people would see that as demotivating, but it completely depends on your mindset. And I think to assume that everyone has that sort of negativity mindset and is like, I actually think comparison can be a hugely motivating thing. And inevitably, we all compare ourselves to other people. Like, there's no way around that. But you can do it from a positive way, like, oh, that's so motivating. Or you can do it from a negative way, like, oh, their before photo is what I want to look like. Okay, well, it's not what they wanted to look like. Like, your goals aren't the same. And even if your goals aren't the same, it doesn't mean you can't be inspired by someone else.
I get as well with the social media use, there's a certain amount of responsibility as well. So if that is problematic for you and it is triggering, then that's a key indicator of stuff you just need to cut out as well. Because unfortunately, we can't filter what everyone else puts out, the same as I guess we can't account for everything everyone else is experiencing. I know we've had discussions on this, is that sometimes there's lots on social media where people are deciding about how others should experience things when everyone else's experience is their own.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly it. And I think like we have to, as individuals, be more of curators of our own social media. If you know that Transformation Tuesdays really trigger you, don't follow the hashtag, don't follow anyone that's putting them up. Like, accept that within yourself, or say that I don't like comparing myself to that, so I'm not going to look at it. But if you know that that's really motivating for you, I don't see the massive harm in that. I think there's a place for it.
We also have, with the transformations, we also have the problem where people assume that a certain type of program is also going to make them look a certain type of way, and they're going to get exactly the same kind of, not they're going to look exactly the same, not that they're going to look the exact same, but they're going to have that kind of result. They're going to lose that many kilos and that much weight, and that is also a problem. So in terms of comparison, that's where it can get wrong as well. And that's also for influencers who throw out their guides, who throw out their plans, who are like, oh, this is my work, this is what I'm doing for my workout. Well, that's a lovely workout you're doing, and I am all about people moving, doing whatever they love for the love of it, but also I also am into truth and fucking science. So if you are, good for them for doing their home workouts and stuff, but come on, babe, you did not get that body by doing 5 squat jumps in your living room. Never happened. Never fucking happened. And it is fine to do that. Like, I'm not saying that, but you can't be lying to your audience, right?
Yeah.
Like, but are they?
Do you think there's an element of self-deception there, though?
I don't think there's not, like, Joe Wick doesn't like.
They're not openly lying, but that is for the consumer to know that themselves, and just use their switch on their brains and be like, actually, if I purchase this plan, I'm not gonna look like that.
Yeah, I think that there's it always really interests me, because I've often, having done a transformation myself, I've often seen a lot of other people's transformations, and it's really interesting actually, because somebody that I know had this transformation, and his before picture was like, he was just really, really overweight, and then he shredded down and he was jacked. But the history was, he'd been training for like 15 years and, built loads of muscle and had, was in really great shape his whole life, and then had, not trained for a little bit and had lost some muscle size and had put on some body fat. So his starting point, while that starting point might have looked very similar to my starting point, for example, it was nothing like my starting point. So it was, but because I knew that person personally, we'd had that conversation, and it was always, you know, it was very transparent and very obvious what had happened.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because when he posted that transformation, I remember everyone being like, you're on steroids, you're on steroids, you're on steroids. And actually he wasn't, but there was a lot more story to it. And I think that, like, my personal feeling is that it is the nuance that is lost in it, but it is also related, I think, to your audience. Like, I remember after I had this conversation about Transformation Tuesdays, I put up a post that was a repost of like a, it was a like a, originally like a body positivity type post, and it was a discussion about transformations and what they were about. And I reposted it, and I was like, I'm really interested to hear what people's opinions are on this. Like, I've obviously posted a lot of Transformation Tuesdays. How have you honestly felt about that? How has, you know, what are your opinions? Do you think it's something positive to do? Do you think it's something negative to? And I was surprised, actually, because quite a few people did message me and go, I'm so glad that you're talking about this, because as much as I'd like not to admit it, when you post the transformation pictures, it makes me feel a little bit triggered, and I don't really know why. And I think this is because I am in, you know, I'm aiming for that before picture. I'm not, you know, this is where I'm at. But an overwhelming majority of people were like, please don't stop posting them. I find them really inspirational, this, that, and the other. And it then becomes really difficult, because you think, like, do you want to stop? And I don't mean this about myself, because I don't honestly believe that my transformation pictures have helped a lot of people. But I think it's more so for stuff like coaches. Should you be stopping yourself from causing discomfort to 10 people out of 100 by stopping helping 90 people out of 100? Like, how do you balance harm versus help within your audience?
Does it make you happy when you post it? Do you still feel proud?
That's a very good question. I
genuinely think it comes down to that.
Yeah.
But so on a like, no offense, Mike, but because you're not selling coaching, like,
yeah,
it doesn't really matter, okay?
Yeah,
but say exactly. I'm posting up transformations, and it means that I can get more people in my coaching program. Now, whether or not like that, well, obviously they're motivated by that, or they probably wouldn't join. And whether that's like a negative form of motivation, which I would hope it isn't, or not, I'm still able to get them in my coaching program. And I know that the education and the service I deliver will benefit them and will make them feel better. And it isn't about how they look at all. It's all about how they feel. But I think this happens with a lot of personal trainers. And I know it's something Dan and I have spoken about, because Dan is so careful with what he puts out on social media. He doesn't want to upset anyone. He doesn't want to like have any negative impacts of these transformations and putting up anything that would negatively affect someone. Yet it's meaning that less people like pay for his service, and he helps less people because of it.
Yeah, how I would frame that is not so much about upsetting people. It's more my personal ethos, and I am conscious of that. So it's not necessarily upsetting people, but certainly I think the message I want to communicate, and the message I would like to do better, is just that it's not, aesthetics is sometimes a byproduct. Actually, everyone I work with hasn't got aesthetic goals, but if I can reframe some of how they're working and make it more focused on performance and just, you know, appreciating the ability of their body to move, and to how eating a little bit better makes them function and perform, I'd much rather communicate some of that, and that is sometimes reflected in aesthetics, but there is lots of aesthetics only out there. That's what I don't really want to be part of. And I know, and you sorry?
I think it comes down to that. What you genuinely want to be part of and what you don't. And the only time it's going to be a problem for you and your own social media, and the time when social media gives you anxiety is when you're posting something you don't feel comfortable with, right?
Absolutely.
Like if the transformation photo, if you're on the fence and you're not nervous, that's going to ruin your day, right? And it's not worth it. But if you deep down know, actually this motivates most of my audience, this is how I do my business. But can I ask a question? Could you possibly just would it work to either of you, Dan and Emma? Would it work? Let's say, Dan, you want to continue building your business. Would it work if you posted photos of their afters and that's it? Why couldn't that be a possibility? Just post their afters. post everything they've achieved and no befores.
I think part of the journey is people do want to see the start point, because people need almost, because not, perhaps it is part of diet culture, but generally how people's brains process things is they like to see the definitive start and the definitive end, even if you're not promoting a diet, if that makes sense.
I think I would agree. I think people often resonate with the before picture, like, oh, I look, and that's why you have, like, we always put up a variety of people who, like, maybe someone they don't even look any different, but we'd put a before and after up and we'd write like what they achieved during the time that they worked with us. And someone might have a huge difference, but and it's usually people that are like, oh, I resonate with this person, like, and it's often their before photo, because like that's what I look like now, and this, like, these are similar results as what I could get. And I get your point before, which is that you can never say you would get those results. Like, it's achievable for some people in some situations, but you don't know what life stresses they have, their genetic hand, their availability to the gym, to food, etc., etc. But there is that, like, ability to achieve something like that, and it's that, I guess, more like a changeable mindset rather than this fixed mindset outlook.
Yeah, I completely appreciate that. From my perspective, because my biggest passion is to get people moving outside of it for reasons outside of aesthetic. It's not even something that would cross my mind, and that's purely my thing. That's why I don't do it.
And do you think that, I'm sorry, and I don't think you do, but do you think you could build a big, like, I guess, client base off no physical changes? No, well, no, you're talking about physical changes, obviously, but I mean, like, no aesthetic before and afters. Like, how do you promote a program?
Do I think people would stay with me? Yeah, I do.
Not stay with you initially, like, because I think, I mean, all of my clients stay with me because of the other things outside of how they look and how much weight they've lost. But I think getting them in,
I think it's a lot harder without. I think it's a lot harder without promoting the aesthetic results. 100%. I think if I was in a larger body, I'm going to be honest, I wouldn't be able to promote. I wouldn't be able to get or promote as much. I think people, because we live in a judgmental society. So I think people think, oh, it's okay for her if I still train with her. I remember back in the day, clients who are still training with me now would be like, oh, I want to train with that one because I want to look like her. That is everything I am against, right? And I'd be like, oh my God, like this can't be happening. So do I think, so I think in some ways I have it slightly easier. But do I think there are, slowly we are transitioning to a place where people are wanting to start moving for the sake of moving.
Yeah, I think the difficulty, I'll being totally transparent, is with the messaging, is how do you communicate that to an audience? And because it is almost like a moral dilemma.
Platform that is a visual platform.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, and it's a moral dilemma because it's, as I said, like, just speaking personally, how, like, hopefully for Emma as well, how we work with people, it's on all those health, behavior, habits, all those other things that lead to potentially aesthetic goals, even though we work with people without any aesthetic goal. But at the same time, you're in an industry that is based on aesthetics to a certain degree, and that is part of the beast, isn't it?
The way I get out of this moral dilemma and why I didn't have an issue with using transformation photos and things is that, like, I see it as, like, you're basically like casting a net and bringing them in.
Yes, I knew you were going to do that.
And then you've got the opportunity.
And then I'm gonna fix them.
Yeah, and then I'm like, psych, we're not actually doing a really restrictive meal plan. I'm going to teach you about nutrition and this and this and this. Yeah. And the same is true for you. If someone was like, I'm going to train with her because she's what I want to look like, and you're like, oh my God, that's not what I'm about. But that's your opportunity to open their minds to, actually, there's so much more benefit to exercise than just it.
It's kind of like when on Instagram you want to post something really, really important, and you think, okay, I'm just going to put up that absolute thirst trap, because then
Yeah.
their attention.
First pick Thursday. It's today.
That
First
is
pick
what it is.
Thursday.
I've done a thirst trap in so long. I'm really
We're all going to be looking out for each other.
I feel like I don't have any. I just haven't been anywhere.
I have a question.
Go on.
When you sort of say that you know, like you've had sort of people who have said like about they want to train with that person because they want to look like that person, etc.
Yeah.
And you were like, oh my God. I would just like to know, at what stage in your sort of fitness career did you like, have you always known all of this? Have you always sort of appreciated those problems, or was there something that taught you that? Because obviously for me, like I've said, it was conversations with certain people, and after I'd had a transformation. At what stage in your journey did you actually figure all of this stuff out?
So great question. So for me, it's always been a really, really slow, gradual process. I never ever, so right at the beginning of my journey, I was all about lifestyle, right? So I was never ever, I've categorically never done the macro thing. I've never done the fitness pal thing. So it was never that massive change. So where I was problematic was the more about, oh, we're going to get creative with our food. We're going to do this, you know, I was more into the, like, we're going to eat cleaner, you know, I was
chocolate grated on avocado.
Cleaner eater. But like, mate, you've literally just smashed like a jar of peanut butter, a jar of, like, do you know what I mean? I was all about that. Like, you can have the darker chocolate, have this. And then at some point I started realizing, this ain't really doing anything for me. This charcoal ain't doing anything for me. I want the good stuff. And so do you know what I mean? But I was never the aggressive, you're going to do 1,500, 1,700. I was never into calorie counting. Okay. But I was into eating a certain way. So I was problematic in itself, just in a different way. Okay. In the kind of milder, in the way that the non-diet way, which is still a diet. Mm-hmm. Makes sense? This is a diet, but it's still a diet kind of way.
So I have a question, and I really hope this doesn't come across as like really stupid on my part, but I'd quite like to be educated here. So when we talk about skinny privilege, like, I kind of get this concept, but is it still privilege if you've worked hard to get there, or if you're working hard to maintain it? And I mean, I don't like the word skinny, but I know what you like. I mean, slim, whatever. Yeah. In a like socially. Yeah.
So when we say things like the privilege, when we say things about privilege, it doesn't really have anything to do with things what you're doing, or hard work, or just what we're talking about. When we say someone has thin privilege, we're talking about the issues they face on a day-to-day basis. So if someone has thin privilege, they're not, if someone in a larger body who doesn't have thin privilege is facing a lot of different issues than someone who has thin privilege. So the biggest argument I always get from people who are slightly confused by what we mean is that, oh, but I still face a lot of criticism for being skinny, right? I still face a lot of criticism when I had an eating disorder. And I'm like, we're not saying you didn't, but you're not facing, as a society, you're not facing those issues. You're not facing the issues in terms of you're not getting refused a job. You're not getting refused a seat on the plane, on a train. If someone is, so your question is, if someone works for it, do they still have thin privilege?
Well, yeah, more just because like the definition of privilege is something that's granted or available to a particular person or group.
Yeah.
Which makes it sound fixed. Okay, so I completely understand white privilege. You're born that way. But you're not born a certain body type, and that is changeable. And obviously it's harder for some people, and it would be easier to maintain that body for other people.
And I think that's what it is. That's where I think that's it. That
it's because it's easier for some people.
Easier for some, harder for some. And that's where we have the socio-economic factors that come in as well. So it's not just about where a lot of people start getting confused or mixed up is that they start saying, oh, anyone can do that, anyone can just eat less. Well, it's a lot easier for some people to eat less or to eat well than it is in other areas of the world, right? Or even just where we live. It's not cheap to eat well, if that makes sense. It's not everyone says, oh, everyone's got the time, or everyone can just go for a run. I would feel a lot easier going for a run with my size. I go for a run in my size and I still get shouted at by a man in a van, right? Let alone knowing that women or men who are in a larger body, the amount of abuse they must get on the street. They don't deserve that. You can say that that's still a choice, but it's not exactly easy, right? I think it comes down to that. So yes, everyone has a chance to change their body, but a lot of us have a lot more of that chance and a lot more of that opportunity to change our bodies if we want to. Yeah. Does that at all make sense?
No, yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. Yeah, I just wondered, yeah, because I think whenever I see privilege, I sort of think of the example of like white privilege, and it isn't really quite the same, because as much as it is genuinely harder, a lot harder for some people, it is still a changeable thing. And I think that's the issue I have with a lot of these things, is that we're almost creating barriers for people.
But the barriers are already there. They're already there.
And I think we enforce them by saying, like,
barriers are already there.
Well, I would say that, but you can still be empowered that there is something you can do. Like, no matter how, like how many barriers you have up against you, there is still something you can do if you want to. Not saying that anyone has to or should feel the pressure to.
Even if I know, but even if it means that they might be getting attacked, even if it means that they might, do you know what I mean? Or even if a disabled person can't have access to the gym, even if a plus size person can't really get access to a sports bra, how is that even fair? Yeah. So I see it like that.
It's interesting because we've spoken about lots of problematic messaging, because I know we briefly spoke about this on Message Ban, but how you feel about representation in the fitness industry as well, and potentially where the pitfalls are, what people can do in terms of elevating other voices that may not have as much reach as them, because it is fairly able-bodied and representative of certain body shapes, isn't it, a lot of the time?
Yeah, it is. Do I think it's getting better? Maybe. There's the other thing where a lot of people get very upset when brands kind of jump on the bandwagon, but then you kind of think, well, then, so what is the right thing to do then? So you're upset if they do something, you're upset if they don't do something. What is the answer?
Yeah, because
I've seen that a lot. I've seen you see that with Gymshark, and first people are rolling their eyes like, but then, so what do you want? What do you genuinely want? I think they just want consistency, right? But I don't know. Again,
they would have got criticised whatever they did, whenever they did it.
That was crazy.
That was, yeah.
It made me quite like sad, because I did feel like the industry had come some way, but for some of those comments under that,
interesting, absolutely. It's like I always think, no, people can't think like that. Like, yeah. They can't think like that. They can't. Even if you, for example, even if you disagree with certain things, you're like, yeah, that's just about being an awful human, and just going about your day.
Yeah, there's no way you can say that stuff knowing it's not going to hurt someone.
We live amongst you, because that is terrifying.
It's mind blowing. Like, it's absolutely mind blowing, and it's like I sort of, you know, I followed the whole Gymshark thing very closely, and it's because I've had like a few conversations with them and stuff about things and about what their like priorities are and what their ethoses are, and it's really interesting to see like the level of it's kind of the marrying up of that level of cynicism in the idea that people do not want to believe that anyone can genuinely change their mind or can do anything that is anything other than performative if it's in the direction of something that isn't, you know, like, oh, they must be doing it for more followers. They must be doing it because they want to create controversy to sell more stuff. And like, whatever you think about that, the fact that those comments were in the thread is exactly the justification of why a company like Gymshark should be doing things like that, because that's the only way that people like that will ever be challenged. And that's the sad fact.
We can't not overstate.
And the comments kind of prove why they probably haven't done it up until now, because they think actually people are going to get upset. Whereas I would just sit back and assume, who's going to get upset over that? Like, why wouldn't you be doing that? Why would every brand be doing this?
Yeah, and we can't not say, because unfortunately it was, which is another question I'd like to ask you, is a lot of those comments were from guys as well. I didn't see any of those hateful, disgusting comments from other women.
It is a lot from men. It is a lot.
But women can be awful as well.
Oh no, I know that, but I'm just saying.
So, and also towards each other, which is like awful to see. But yeah.
So feminism in fitness.
Well, it's just about girl power, isn't it?
Supporting each other, even if you're wrong.
Supporting each other. Yeah. Massively problematic feminism in fitness, in my eyes. Back in the day, you still have the women who are still arguing that feminism is about uplifting, but it's not. It's really, really not about that. It's really, really not just about supporting your mates who are fucking problematic. There are a lot of big time influencers out there who are all about, I'm here about, about diversity, and honestly, I've openly spoken to a lot of them who are all about diversity, all a lot about, Black Lives Matter. And I'm like, mate, your best mate who you hang out with is the biggest problem. And they're like, no, but she means well. You can't do that. You cannot be okay with that. And if you want to be friends with that person, in my eyes, just don't fucking post a black square. Fine. Just you can't say one thing and do another. When someone is directly profiting off a movement that you say you're supporting and directly taking away from marginalized people and has built a whole business on a movement that's got nothing to do with them, and you're sitting there going, preach, underneath their post, that's not okay.
I feel like there's a story here, Bam.
Yeah, I do.
There's just so many, and they all know who they are. That's the thing, they know. So they can pretend that they don't know, but they know. And they are uncomfortable with it themselves. And it's like this moral dilemma of, do I still want to be mates with my mate who's going to help me with her 600K followers, 700K followers, her 500,000 followers? Do I openly say behind their back that it's a bit problematic and still continue to support their posts? Or do I want to help marginalized people? No, you want that fucking paycheck. That's what you want. You want your Instagram followers. So that isn't feminism. You can't call that supporting other women. Feminism is about supporting all women. It's about supporting the women who don't have that blue tick. It's about supporting the women whose posts don't get even seen on social media because they're shadow banned. Because anytime they post something which is slightly revealing, Instagram bars them. It's about supporting disabled women, trans women, not just your mate. So that's the biggest issue I have with feminism. And if someone like me calls it out, I feel like I get a lot more stick than if a male who parodies them or creates kind of like a satirical thing about them, that's almost okay than when a woman does it. Because with a woman, you're just a fucking hater. You're an ugly fucking hater, right?
Sorry, I'm just laughing because it's just... Yeah, very.
When women do it, it's like, oh, you're just bitter, you're ugly, you're whatever. I'm like, okay, mate, cool. I'm ugly, great, bye. Cool. But I do feel like that happens a lot with women.
It's interesting to hear because obviously, this is a side that we don't experience. That's our male privilege. We don't experience this. All progressive. Look at me. No, because I am aware of that. But what I am also conscious about, because this is something that we've discussed on the podcast before, is, I find sometimes as a man that wants to support women, because there are a lot of women in the industry that I'm fans of, that communicate a message that I really believe in. And they're educating the masses because they deserve to be there. It's sometimes seen, if you're vocal about that,
Virtue signaling.
Virtue signaling, or having an ulterior motive.
Slide.
Yeah.
Would you post enough pictures of your wife, mate?
Do I post enough?
Pictures of your wife.
She features enough. I don't know. Do I?
Okay, I'm
Dan's getting worried now.
The least creepy person in the fitness
exactly.
industry.
That was a joke. I know what you mean.
Dan, I'm a sensitive flower. I will dissect that.
He will sit up all night thinking, but maybe there was an element of truth in that.
Oh, bless you. No. I'm just saying, I literally sit up all night. I literally haven't slept in about 10 years because I was just overthinking. There was nothing in that. I know what you mean. It is difficult. Like, is this just another white guy being holier than thou? Here's what the white guys wants to say. How do you do it? How
do we become better allies?
You give the mic over to the woman who needs to speak. You help.
Okay, I think we do all right with that. I think we're fairly good at shutting our mouths and.
Okay with
that. They've even got a token girl on their podcast.
Because we are raving misogynists. Yeah, Emma's our auditor to make sure we don't get too laddie, because we are the laddiest people around.
I think I'm more of a lad.
Really.
No, because it's also, I think the female voices we all speak about I don't want to say it's like they're there to tick boxes, because we got quite a little bit of flack, didn't we? We did a charity event earlier in the year, and someone made a bit of a comment about not having enough women there, but.
No, it was diversity. We had we had loads of panels. We had like 15 different talks. And someone had posted a thing from one of the talks, and we'd reposted it on a post or something, and someone had commented under the post, "Oh, it's interesting to see. Could you not have found any people of color or something for this?" And it happened to be that one of the panels that we did had been all white women, I think, pretty much, apart from me and you, Dan. But we had throughout the whole event.
I'd just like to say, there was 4 or 5, maybe 6 people on the whole panel. Like, it wasn't like we had hundreds of people and they were all white.
Even when it is 6 people, even when it is 5 people, we expect it.
But I think
it's about taking it into consideration. Doesn't matter how many people there are.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that at all. Like, I think diversity is really important. I think there was 2 things that upset me about the comment. One was that they'd not looked at the event; they'd looked at one specific panel on the event. Like, there were lots of panels where we had no white people on the panel. Like, cool. Like, and I'm not saying look how great we are. We didn't choose anyone based on anything other than they were people who we know, who we think are great voices in the industry. And I think also it was a bit like on my part, like, Dan's Middle Eastern, I'm Middle Eastern. It was kind of the idea that, it's not like, I don't consider myself to be,
as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if you don't look like really super, ethnic, people assume that you are white. And I think that, like, sometimes I think we should necessarily be thinking about people who are looking for things to not attack, because it's not an attack at the end of the day, but sometimes it's like,
criticize.
Can't you just listen? Could you just listen to a talk and listen to the information without trying to make it into an argument about something that isn't even an issue within that panel? Because, as far as we're concerned, there was diversity on that panel.
Well, we had 2 comments about women as well, didn't we? We had Emma and Amelia. It was the commenting about the pictures.
But that was from other women, wasn't it?
Yeah. Looks like a great event, but it really annoys me when women pose with their hands up in their hair. It was because of the infographic.
So I'm all about the diversity. And if someone's getting upset with you guys about that, I'm like, sit with that. That's fine for you to be upset. If someone's getting upset with your hands underneath your head, you need to fuck off, mate, and get a life. Get a job. Get a job.
Yeah, get a job.
Get a job.
But I mean, I can see both sides of it. Like, I think diversity is obviously really important. But like Mike was saying, like, I also think even from like, even if it was like, oh, we want Emma to talk because there's no girls on the panel. No, I want you to want me to talk because I'm the best at talking about that topic, or like because you want to hear what I say about that topic. Shouldn't matter that I'm a girl or not. Like that's how we picked the I guess the speakers on that panel.
So there's the argument a lot. That argument comes up a lot in diversity, where people will be like, oh, it's not about color, it's about whoever's best for the job. And that's just not good enough, in my opinion.
That's because we don't necessarily know who's best for the job among the diverse people, because we...
That's awful, right? That's fucking awful that we don't know who's best for the job among the... It's awful that you only know you, me, everyone. It's awful that our go-tos are people that look pretty much the same as us, right? That's our problem.
Yeah.
So everyone can say, I think people can argue that, oh, I just want the person who's best for the job. Why don't, there's got to be other people who are good for the job, right? It shouldn't be that we only know those 5 people. We need to be better at that.
That's why we get lots of interesting people on the podcast, so we can take some into other events.
I think it is interesting because it's kind of like as well, I don't know, like if we were I'm trying to think of an example. It's terrible when I try and think on the fly, because I start thinking and I go into lots of cul-de-sacs of dead ends, and then I don't really know what I'm trying to say. So I'm just going to slowly back away.
Because we have been nattering away for a long time and we've covered loads. The story I wanted Ben to share was one I actually heard on another podcast.
What?
And I'm going to ask you coded, and hope that you desperately hope you know what I'm talking about, so I don't have to tell the story about a certain something that women do when they're not happy.
What podcast? What podcast that I was talking about?
It was definitely you speaking.
What, peeing on dick?
I wouldn't have put it in those words, but
what? Basically, when a lot of, I can't believe we're bringing this up.
Well, it was new to me. It was totally new. I didn't know it existed, and I thought, it'd be a good close on the podcast.
Oh God, mate, guys, lockdown 3 might be happening. Lockdown 2, lockdown 3, I don't know what. No, it was basically, I was talking about something where I'd heard, and it came up in the podcast, where a lot of women, when they come and they squirt, are actually just pissing on men. Are you guys shocked?
I've heard it. I just wanted to see my out of it. You want
to invite me back? Take it away from fitness to.
I'm just seeing my GMC registration flash before my eyes, and I'm just like, it's just gonna sink away from this.
Yeah. So wait, Mike's the doctor, right?
Yeah. Why would they care?
So Mike's no. Mike's the doctor, so he can give us the actual. Is this true? So a lot of it's piss.
I don't know if it's true.
What do you mean you don't know? You're a doctor, you know.
I mean, people don't tend to chat about that to their GPs.
Yeah, but don't you know? Like, what's the bodily function, babe? Are we pissing, or are we when we're squirting, or what are we doing? Where did this go?
I think we've run out of time.
What? As if that's not been answered on Google.
No, but a lot of it, I think so. So a lot of women are just pissing. Some women are doing a combination of both. Either way, I don't care.
So do you think when like
piss on him? Piss
yeah.
On him. #piss on him.
Did you think when girls are faking, they're like, I'll just take a piss?
Yeah, a little bit. There's a little left. There's a little bit left. Just piss on his dick.
That's fantastic. I'm
literally going to be known as the person who goes to every podcast and talks about pissing.
No, do you know what? Genuinely, I loved everything we covered, because it's good to get debate on health. Debate's healthy. I think it's needed. It's definitely important for us to see other people's opinions on things, because especially on the diversity side of stuff, there's stuff that I try to think about, but I could do better. Like there's stuff I know I could do better.
Sorry to interrupt, but I've found an answer.
A combination of both.
One of the biggest questions surrounding squirting is whether the mysterious fluid produced is simply urine. In one study in 2014, a sample of women were asked to go to the loo prior to sexual activity and undertake an ultrasound scan to prove their bladders were empty. After the woman became sexually excited, they were given a second ultrasound, which showed their bladders refilled significantly. Finally, a third scan showed after they'd squirted revealed empty bladders again, suggesting the liquid they'd released came from this source and was likely pee.
So we're all just peeing on men. Great,
Yep.
love it. Mark your territory, people.
And on that note, we're going to actually do this in the other way, because I know you're going on to doing some exciting study as well, Ben.
Oh yeah. Oh, that sounds so
Yeah, I was going to say, I said excited.
I'm just really overwhelmed and stressed at the moment. I am excited.
Oh, really?
I'm just literally can't really handle doing another. Why am I going back to study? I've started a master's in psychotherapy, just because I think there's a natural fit. I think in the future that it will be. I don't think you'll be able to become a personal trainer without going into the therapy side of things. I just think it's absolutely impossible. I think most of the work we do with our clients, most of the people who think they want these results, and then either they think they want the results and they're getting the results and then they're still not happy, or they're not getting the results and it's got nothing to do with willpower or motivation or not knowing what to eat or drink. It's generally about some underlying issues, some trauma. I think it's just also, I just think it's all really, really interesting. And I think it's where kind of the future of fitness will go to. So yeah.
So it is is fitness in mind, then you're moving over and doing a bit more of that.
It will be a combination of both at some point in my life. And then maybe with the potential of in the near future, maybe I just go down that route. Who knows? I don't think there's any harm in just education.
No, absolutely not. Yeah. And if our listeners do want to find out more about you, and as you said, sometimes you can be bothered, sometimes you can't, but they do want to find out about you, where can they go, Ben?
Just Ben Hass across all social media.
Excellent.
It's literally just Instagram and Twitter. I pretend like it's all everywhere.
I've heard Twitter is the fourth dimension of hell. I don't go anywhere near it these days.
I really like it. I don't use it, but I do like it because there's no photos.
I like Twitter.
So I love Twitter.
I just don't like with Instagram. A lot of the time, I just don't have a photo to post, so I can't post. So that's another big part of it. I don't actually have. I'll have the words, but I won't have the post. Whereas Twitter, you can just chat shit without anything. So.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for your time. And also, I've just absolutely loved that. I feel like
that was brilliant. Thank you so much.
Questioned my own beliefs and was really useful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys.
Please do come back. And if all our listeners have enjoyed this, please subscribe. Let us know what you thought of the episode and all that jazz.
Really angry.
We'll find out. Anyway, we are going to end in the usual fashion. Bye.
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 Bye.